Clara had never seen anything like this. She stepped out of her sleek starship onto the planet's soil and froze. The trees were enormous, stretching high into the sky, their tops lost in a thick mist. The rivers were wide, their currents strong and relentless, and the mountains in the distance seemed to scrape the stars. She had traveled across many planets, exploring civilizations, studying their strength and learning their ways. But nothing had prepared her for this. Her hand instinctively went to her weapon, but it felt useless here. The land itself seemed alive, breathing and demanding respect. She looked around, her multifaceted eyes scanning every detail. The forest floor was alive with creatures of unimaginable size. Insects that dwarfed her entire body scuttled through fallen leaves. Strange, furry animals moved in the shadows, their eyes glowing with intelligence and curiosity. Clara's heartbeat quickened. "It's too big. How do humans even survive this?" she muttered aloud, her voice echoing in the vastness. Her mission was simple in theory: observe humans and report back to her people. Humans were legendary for their adaptability, for surviving in environments that would crush other species. Yet seeing them here, navigating a world that seemed to have been built against them, Clara felt a twinge of fear. She had expected cleverness, but this was something else entirely. She followed a narrow path that led toward the distant smoke rising from what she assumed was a settlement. The closer she got, the more she noticed the signs of human life. Simple structures built from wood and stone were scattered along the riverbanks. People moved with purpose, carrying bundles, working in small groups, their movements efficient, almost graceful. There was no fear in their eyes, no hesitation, only focus and determination. Clara hid behind a massive tree trunk, observing. She saw a man lifting a heavy log, using a clever system of pulleys and levers. A woman balanced on the riverbank, catching fish with a net she had crafted herself. Children ran between them, helping where they could, their small hands strong enough to carry tools twice their size. Clara felt a mix of awe and confusion. How can they do all this?" she whispered. She stepped forward cautiously, revealing herself. The humans noticed immediately. A tall man with a beard and strong shoulders raised his hand. "Hello," he said. His voice was calm, not afraid, not aggressive. Clara's instincts screamed at her to pull her weapon, but she didn't. There was something about these humans that demanded respect. "I am Clara," she said, her voice steady but tinged with disbelief. I have come to study humans, to understand how you survive. Here." The man nodded slowly. "You are far from home, alien," he said. "This land is not easy. Many fail here, but if you want to learn, we can show you." Clara's multifaceted eyes widened. "Show me? You expect me to survive here?" "Yes," the man replied. "But only if you try. We don't give survival. You earn it." She looked around and noticed others approaching. A woman with sharp eyes carrying a woven basket filled with fruits and herbs stepped forward. "It is not just strength," she said. "It is intelligence, patience, and courage. You may have power, but here it is not enough." Clara felt a mixture of frustration and curiosity. She had faced warriors stronger than any human, creatures that could tear through stone with ease. Yet here humans moved through danger like dancers, avoiding it with skill, turning obstacles into tools. She followed them, eager to learn, though her pride bristled. The first lesson came quickly. The humans led her to a river where the current ran fast and the water was deep. "Cross it," the man said simply. "Use what you have," Clara laughed softly. "This will be easy." She leapt, but the current was stronger than she anticipated. She was swept halfway across before she grabbed onto a floating branch. The humans reached her, their hands steady, their grip firm, and pulled her to safety. She sputtered, water streaming from her scales. "How do you do that?" she asked, genuinely amazed. "It is not about strength," the woman explained. "It is about observation, timing, and trust. The river is strong, yes, but if you learn its rhythm, it will carry you instead of destroying you." Clara nodded, absorbing every word. She tried again, this time watching the flow carefully, feeling its pulse. She leapt, landed on the rocks, and let the water guide her. She reached the other side without fear, and for the first time she felt a spark of admiration for these humans. The day passed in a blur of lessons. She learned to climb trees using simple knots and grips, to track small animals for food, to identify herbs that could heal or harm. She stumbled often, laughed at herself when mistakes were made, and felt the weight of exhaustion in muscles unused to such constant effort. Yet each success, no matter how small, filled her with a sense of accomplishment she had rarely experienced. At night, they camped under the stars. Kalara sat by the fire, listening as the humans shared stories of past survival, of clever tricks and daring escapes. She realized that every story was a lesson, every tale a blueprint for living in this enormous, untamed world. She asked countless questions, each one answered patiently, each answer a key to understanding human ingenuity. "Why do you push yourself so hard?" Kalara asked finally, staring into the fire. "Why not retreat to easier lands? Why risk so much?" The man beside her smiled. "Because we must. Because this is life. Challenges make us stronger, cleverer. We adapt, we endure, and in doing so we survive. It is not the size of the world that matters. It is the courage to live within it." Kalara felt a warmth in her chest she had not expected. She had thought humans were fragile, simple, limited. She had thought their survival was luck or stubbornness. Now she saw it was neither. It was intelligence, creativity, and spirit. But the night was not without danger. From the shadows, a creature larger than any she had seen moved toward their camp. Its eyes glowed like molten gold and its claws scraped against the trees with a sound that made Kalara's blood chill. The humans noticed immediately. There was no panic, only action. They moved together with precision, forming a protective circle, using fire and noise to drive the creature away. Kalara's jaw dropped. They were so small, so seemingly vulnerable, yet they commanded respect from even the largest predators. When the creature finally retreated, Kalara whispered, This is impossible." "Nothing is impossible," the woman said. "If you are clever, if you work together, you can survive anything." Kalara spent the next few days learning their ways. She fell countless times, misjudged distances, miscalculated traps, and laughed at herself. Yet every failure taught her more than any battle ever had. She began to understand the subtle art of human survival, how to turn weaknesses into advantages, how to see danger before it arrives, and how to use the environment itself as a weapon or shield. By the end of the first week, Kalara was exhausted but transformed. She could climb trees with ease, track animals silently, and even navigate the river currents with confidence. More importantly, she understood the principle behind every human action: adaptation. They did not rely on raw power alone. They relied on thought, teamwork, and unyielding will. One morning, she stood on a high ridge, looking down at the forest, rivers, and mountains. Her voice trembled as she spoke to herself. It is too big. And yet they survive. They survive, because they never stop thinking, never stop moving forward. The humans approached, smiling at her reflection. "You are learning," the man said. "Soon you will see that size is not the enemy. It is the challenge, and challenges are what make humans who they are." Kalara nodded, a newfound respect settling in her heart. She had entered this world expecting to study humans. Instead, she found herself humbled by their ingenuity, awed by their courage, and eager to see how far their adaptability could take them. Her journey had just begun, but one thing was clear. Surviving here was not just about strength or technology. It was about spirit. And humans had that spirit in abundance. She took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next. "Teach me more," she said. "Show me everything. I want to survive, like a human." The human smiled. "Then prepare yourself," the woman said. "The world is bigger and the lessons are endless. If you can survive this, you can survive anything." Kalara looked around once more, the vast forest stretching beyond sight. Her heart raced with excitement and fear. She was small, the world was enormous, and yet she felt alive. And for the first time, she truly understood why humans could endure the impossible. Kalara woke to the sound of birds calling from high above. The sun had barely risen, but the forest was already alive with movement. The humans were awake, preparing their morning tasks with quiet efficiency. She rubbed her eyes and stretched, feeling muscles sore from the day before, yet brimming with energy she had never felt in her life. Today would be different. She had learned much already. How to move through the forest without leaving tracks, how to fish, how to identify which plants could heal and which could harm. But the humans promised there were greater challenges ahead. They said she would need to truly understand not only the land, but herself if she wanted to survive fully. The man from before, whose name she learned was Rohan, approached with a calm smile. "Are you ready?" he asked. Kalara nodded. "I am," she said, though her heart raced with anticipation. Their first task was to cross the valley. From a nearby ridge, Kalara looked down and felt her stomach drop. The valley was vast, filled with sharp rocks, rushing rivers, and dense undergrowth. Even she, with her alien agility, could see it was a dangerous place. Yet the humans moved down confidently, stepping carefully but without fear. Kalara followed, trying to mimic their movements. She slipped once, her foot caught on a root, and she tumbled down a small slope. She landed hard but laughed at herself. The humans reached her, offering their hands and guiding her back to the path. "Every mistake teaches you," Rowan said. "Fall, learn, rise again. That is survival." As they walked, Kalara noticed the smallest details she had missed before. Tiny streams feeding into the main river, birds acting as sentinels, insects signaling danger. Humans seemed to notice everything instinctively. She realized it was not just skill. It was awareness, constant attention, a harmony with the world around them. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the valley. Kalara froze. A massive predator emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing bright orange. Its fur shimmered in the sunlight, and its jaws were wide enough to swallow her whole. She instinctively reached for her weapon, but Rowan shook his head. "Watch," he said calmly. "Learn first." The humans moved slowly, deliberately, spreading out in a circle. They clapped sticks together, shouted, and made themselves appear larger. Kalara's heart pounded, but she mimicked their actions. The creature snarled, took a step closer, and then, as if reconsidering, retreated into the shadows. Kalara exhaled, astonished. You did not fight it," she whispered. "Sometimes survival is not about fighting," Rohan replied. "It is about knowing when to act and when to wait. The world is dangerous. Humans have learned to choose their battles." They continued through the valley, facing smaller challenges, crossing slippery rocks, climbing steep inclines, and avoiding hidden traps set by the natural environment. Kalara struggled at times, her alien strength and instincts often working against the humans' careful techniques. She fell, scraped her limbs, and cursed under her breath, but each time she rose more determined than before. By midday, they reached a clearing. Kalara looked around and saw signs of human ingenuity everywhere. Shelters built from branches and leaves blended perfectly into the forest. Simple devices like pulleys and levers helped carry water from the river. She realized humans did not just survive. They shaped their environment to meet their needs. "Why do you work so hard?" she asked a young girl who was carefully arranging herbs in baskets. The girl smiled. "Because we must. Because the forest is big, yes, but it is beautiful. If we do not adapt, we cannot live. If we do not work, we cannot thrive." Kalara nodded, a new understanding dawning in her mind. She had always believed that survival was about strength and weapons. Here she saw that intelligence, creativity, and cooperation mattered far more. The next challenge came in the form of a massive storm. Dark clouds rolled over the valley, winds howling and rain pouring like rivers from the sky. Trees bent and cracked under the force, and the rivers swelled, threatening to flood the land. The humans moved quickly but calmly, securing their shelters, guiding each other through the chaos and keeping everyone safe. Kalara panicked at first, unsure how to move against the wind and rain. She slipped in the mud, nearly swept away by the swollen stream. But Rowan's hand grabbed hers, steadying her. "Trust yourself in what you have learned," he shouted over the roar of the storm. She took a deep breath and focused. She remembered the lessons about observation, timing, and rhythm. She moved carefully, adjusting with each gust of wind, letting the river guide her instead of resisting it. By the end of the storm, she had crossed the river safely, drenched but triumphant. The humans cheered quietly. "You are learning," Rowan said, pride in his voice. "Not just to survive, but to thrive." As night fell, Kalara sat by the fire again, feeling exhausted in a way that was satisfying rather than painful. She watched the humans around her, laughing, sharing food, telling stories of their past struggles and triumphs. She realized that survival was more than avoiding danger. It was about community, about connection, about finding strength in each other. Over the next few days, Kalara faced more tests, scaling cliffs, hunting small prey, navigating dangerous terrain, and crafting tools from nothing but raw materials. She stumbled often, frustrated at her alien instincts, but slowly she began to adapt. She learned to think like a human, to anticipate danger, to plan several steps ahead. One evening, while resting on a high ridge, she watched the sunset paint the valley in brilliant colors. She thought about how far she had come. A week ago she had arrived, terrified of this enormous world. Now she felt capable, stronger not just in body but in mind and spirit. She realized that humans were not just surviving, they were thriving in a world that seemed impossible. The next day, Rohan led her to the edge of a massive canyon. "This is your final test," he said. Kalara's eyes widened. The canyon was enormous, wider than any river she had crossed, and the opposite side was shrouded in mist. "You must cross it," Rohan said. "Use everything you have learned. Use your mind, your body, your courage, survive." Kalara hesitated. She could see the danger, feel the wind whipping through the canyon, hear the faint roar of waterfalls below. Her alien instinct screamed to retreat, but she thought of the humans who had guided her, taught her, believed in her. She thought of the young girl in the clearing, arranging herbs, showing determination beyond her years. She thought of the countless humans who had survived impossible challenges, not through brute force but through ingenuity and will. She nodded, determined. "I am ready," she said. The humans watched silently as Kalara prepared. She studied the canyon, tracing the path with her eyes, planning each step carefully. She leapt onto a narrow ledge, balanced with precision, and moved forward. She used branches, rocks, and makeshift tools to bridge gaps. She adjusted with each gust of wind, remembered the river currents, remembered the rhythm of movement she had learned. Halfway across, a rock shifted under her foot. She stumbled, heart racing, but remembered the lessons. She steadied herself, using a nearby branch to balance, and continued. The humans cheered quietly from the opposite side, but Kalara ignored them. Her focus was absolute. Finally, she reached the other side. She stood there, chest heaving, looking back across the canyon. She had survived. She had thrived. She had learned what it truly meant to endure in a world far beyond her own. Rohan approached, smiling. "You have done it," he said. "You have learned what it means to survive like a human, not just through strength, but through courage, intelligence, and spirit." Kalara looked around at the enormous valley, the vast forest, the rivers, the mountains, and the sky stretching beyond. She felt awe, respect, and gratitude. "I understand now," she said softly. "It is not the size of the world that matters. It is the strength of the spirit, the mind, and the heart." The humans nodded, sharing quiet smiles. They had taught her not just to survive, but to see the world through their eyes, to respect it, to adapt to it, and to thrive within it. As the sun set, painting the valley in gold and crimson, Kalara felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had entered this enormous world frightened and doubtful, but she now stood as someone who understood the essence of human resilience. She turned to Rohan and the others. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "You have shown me something my people never taught me. Humans are incredible. I will carry this lesson to the stars." Rohan nodded. "And one day perhaps you will show your people. Perhaps they will learn too that survival is not just about strength, but about the courage to live, to adapt, and to endure." Kalara smiled, looking back at the endless forest. She knew this was only the beginning of her journey. But one thing was certain. Humans could survive anything, and their spirit would always shine, no matter how big or dangerous the world around them might be. And for the first time, she felt a spark of something deeper than respect, admiration, awe, and a connection that transcended species. Humans had taught her a lesson that would last her lifetime. Survival was more than instinct. It was art, it was wisdom, and it was courage. She took a deep breath of the fresh, wild air and whispered to herself, "If humans can survive this, they can survive anywhere." The forest stretched endlessly around her, and Kalara felt alive in a way she never had before. She had faced the impossible and learned the impossible secret, that the human spirit was